morning, everybody. I am François Royer from Laboratoire Hubert Curien, and as said by Laurence, I will present this project, which is relating to the magnetic field steering of the thermochromic behavior of microstructure surfaces. This project will be led in collaboration between our lab, Laboratoire Hubert Curien, with some colleagues who are here, for example, Florent and Christophe, who are in the room, and other colleagues from the Laboratoire Georges Friedel, also in Saint-Étienne, Nicolas Moulin and Patrick Gangster, and a collaboration with the group in Paris. So, first of all, of course, I would like to thank the Manutech-SLEIGHT Scientific Council, who has decided to select this project and decided to fund this project. So the funding is, yes, the funding is a PhD support. So this project will be led, I hope that it will work, will be led by Hei Huang, who is a Vietnamese student, and she's supposed to start at the beginning of March, I hope, if everything is okay. So she obtained an engineer degree last November from her university in Vietnam in the field of materials engineering with a very good global point of average. She has led an internship related to the synthesis and characterization of zinc oxide nanowires in Grenoble. And she has also worked on the synthesis and characterization of self-cleaning film for photovoltaic application. So she's supposed to start on in March to work on that. So today, as you have understood, we have not started the project, and I will give an overview of this project in terms of objective and scientific issues. So what we are planning to do with that project is to, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, sorry, we cannot see. So this is the association of two materials. This one, material is a magnetic nanocomposite which possesses an heating power. So just imagine this is the nanocomposite silica oxide with magnetic nanoparticles, and you apply an alternative magnetic field, we will say a few hundreds of kilohertz to that materials. You have some nanoparticles with the magnetic moment, and so the magnetic moment will move one side, other side, one side, other side, and it induces an heating of the nanoparticles and then an heating of the materials. The idea is to associate this kind of materials with another one, which is vanadium dioxide, which possesses a thermochromic effect. It is the following. So these materials behave as a dielectric when it is at low temperature, but when you increase the temperature and go, for example, to 60 degrees, there is a phase transition and the materials is now a metal. So he has a different behavior, and we can see that in terms of optical reflectivity, which is really different. So what we are planning to do in that project is to employ this alternative magnetic field to monitor the optical reflectivity of the surface, so inducing the thermal effect through the magnetic field. We also plan to go further and to work on microstructure devices, so not only on thin films, but using microstructuration, we can say at the micron scale, and you have some area with nanocomposite nanoparticles and an area without. So without any magnetic field, everything is behaving like dielectric, so the light can go through. But when you apply an alternative magnetic field, this part will hit and induce a change in the vanadium dioxide. So at the end, what we have, this is a modulation of the property, we can say the refractive index of the surface, so sort of optical grating associated to a waveguide. This is a guided mode resonant device, and we may obtain a full reflection in that situation. So at the end, the aim is to obtain a sort of switch optical surface, so to steer the thermo-chromic effect by the magnetic field and trying to demonstrate it with localized effect at the micron scale. Of course, there is also some scientific issues. For example, what is the temperature of the nanoparticles? This is a scientific question that we may address. And we also plan to study the direct magnetic steering of the transition in vanadium dioxide. I mean, in fact, we have seen in the literature that it is possible to activate this transition using a magnetic field. You need to use a very high magnetic field, but this is also something what we want to do. Few words now about the nanocomposite. This is what we are doing in the group. So this is a silica matrix with nanoparticles inside. It is done using magnetic nanoparticles. They are in the liquids. You just add that to a solar gel preparation, and through deep coating of the substrate in the solution, you can obtain that kind of films. So you can see the nanoparticles inside. The volume fraction on nanoparticle can go to 20, 30%. And we were able to realize two-dimensional microstructure, a three-dimensional one, and we were also able to fill an optical fiber, a microstructure optical fiber, in order to obtain a magnetic functionality in that kind of fiber. For example, we have done that kind of device. You have a one-dimensional microstructure surface on a substrate. It behaves as a guided mode resonant device, so you have a large reflection. And when you apply a magnetic field in one direction or the other direction, you can shift the resonance. And if you measure the shift of the resonance, we have obtained more than 20% of shifting of the resonance with the magnetic field. Oh, this is what we have done before. This is not what we want to do in that exactly in that project. So in that project, we want to work on the thermal effect, so what we call the magnetic hyperthermia, which is induced by magnetic nanoparticles. Classically, So you just put some nanoparticles in, for example, in water, and you put this solution in coils, in hair coils, and apply an alternative magnetic field, and you can induce an increase of the temperature, okay? If you do that in water, you can go to hundreds of degrees without any difficulties. So what is the mechanism? The mechanism in liquid, in that the particles can move. So you can induce a steering of the nanoparticles in the liquids. So this is a viscous heating. And of course, we have some hysteresis slope, magnetic hysteresis slope. So the mechanism, of course, depends on the frequency. If you increase the frequency, you increase the effect. It depends on the size, it depends on the magnetic properties. At the time, that kind of phenomena is planned to be used to destroy cancer cells, because you can fix and increase the temperature. So what are we planning exactly to do with HEY in that project? It relates to the elaboration, of course, of materials. So the coating of vanadium dioxide by pulse laser deposition. This is the experience of my colleagues here. We plan, of course, to do some coating by solar gel method, and also to realize some microstructuration by photolithography or nano imprint. Then, of course, we plan to characterize. It means measuring the transmittance spectrum of the samples with the association of both materials, and measuring it as a function, of course, of the applied magnetic field. Another experiment we are planning to do is to obtain the measurement of the temperature of the nanoparticles. We will use another method, indirect one. This is a magneto-optical method. If you inject a linearly polarized light on a sample, which is magnetized, you obtain a rotation of the polarization. This is very known. This is the Faraday effect. The Faraday effect is obtained with a constant magnetic field. But this Faraday effect is dependent on the temperature. So the rotation you obtain at the end really depends on the temperature. So what we are planning to do is to alternate. First, we apply the alternative magnetic field to warm, to heat the samples. Then we stop. And with a fixed magnetic field, we just measure the output polarization, and we can then see if this polarization is changing or not, and deduce at the end the nanoparticles temperature. Ça y est. Hop. Thank you. So in that project, there are some, I said before, different scientific issues. The first is not so evident. See, how much can be the increase of the temperature in the nanocomposite? In fact, in a solid matrix, only the hysteresis loss can give an heating. There is no stirring, so it will really change the situation. And we don't really know the effect of the matrix in terms of thermal diffusion. The porosity will play a role on the thermal diffusion for sure. And what can be the effect also of the substrate. So this is why we think that we will really take benefit from the modeling, which will be made using firstly COMSOL. And this is the experience of our colleagues in the laboratoire Charles Friedel. We were able, for example, to model the microwave heating in the silicon carbide. So they are able to model the elevation of temperature as a function of the time. So they have a large experience on that. And we think that it is really important for us, for example, to design how much nanoparticles we have to use in the matrix. For example, of course, to compare these modeling to the measurement done before, and also finally to do the geometrical design of the device. Another scientific issue in terms of elaboration is the compatibility between both materials. It is supposed to work, but we are not so sure. We have not done that before because of the annealing which is required, and perhaps that we will use rapid thermal annealing. And another question and issue is about the time, the characteristic time of the effect. How much is the transient behavior in our case, how much time to obtain the static behavior, and so on. In terms of, we can say, impact of that project, as you can see, the project is related to multifunctional surfaces with a combination of microstructuration and active materials. It relates to multiphysics in terms of optics, magnetics, and heating and thermal diffusion. In terms of impact, also, it is interesting to study the mechanism of hyperthermia in a solid matrix. At the time, in the community of hyperthermia, there is a large debate about the temperature of the nanoparticles. It is clearly not the same when you are in a liquid and when you had these nanoparticles in, for example, biological cell. So it is important to have some model situation, and the solid matrix is a good model situation to understand how much is this increase. The project is also the framework of a new novel collaboration between the both labs. They have already worked together, these two labs, but the collaboration is here on the numerical simulation and modeling of the property of materials. This is quite new to collaborate on that aspect. In terms of application, what are the targets? As I have just shown in the beginning, this is to realize functional or tunable optical surfaces. We can also mine about sensors, for example, magnetic sensors, but also optical detector, which are based on vanadium dioxide. But in that situation, when this material is supposed to be used in optical detector, the threshold transition is quite high in order that the photons can induce the transition of the materials. So the idea can be, for example, to use magnetic effect to increase a bit the temperature and to be much more close to the threshold in order that after photons can induce the threshold. And another point in terms of application is that perhaps there is an interest in that point, is to realize biological platforms with heating power. We have done that before, this kind of platforms. You see, this is silica matrix with magnetic nanoparticles. And we know that that kind of system, depending on the periodicity and so on, has a selective attachment for biological cells. And we can imagine to selectively attach some cells and then hit them. I don't know exactly why, but for example, for the growth or to destroy it. So to be able to do some selective operation. So thank you, and I hope that Hey will obtain the visa and so on and manage all the administrative tasks to be here in March. And I hope that she will be able to present some first results at the next workshop. Thank you so much.